Running a startup means wearing many hats. But what if you didn't have to do it all yourself?
Today, we're breaking down why outsourcing isn't just a cost-cutting measure, but a powerful strategy for growth and sustainability. Hello and welcome to BizNest. My name is Francis.
And my name is Penny. And today we'll be talking about all the struggles that startup founders face, the benefits of outsourcing, and how to do it right.
So if you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode of BizNest.
So, Francis, outsourcing, this is our job, right? This is what we've been doing for the last 7 years, going on 8 years. And I think we've talked to a lot of startup founders already. What are the things that we often hear from startup founders in terms of their struggle?
Well. Jumping right to it, we're trying to talk about these challenges. I would definitely say first struggles. I started a business and all of a sudden it's too successful, which is a great thing, right? It should be a great thing because all of a sudden you have a business. It's more like it's a champagne problem, right? So we start limited manpower and resources. So when I say champagne problems, I would rather have the problem that says, I now have too many orders to fulfill. I now have too many clients than I know how to handle, or it's taking up all of my time and I can't focus on the other crucial aspects of my business. But what they say is crucial aspect of their business is usually not what they think it is. It's more like, I also need to do finance. If you're a guru and you're doing mentoring and you're doing all of those things you're
also sending the emails. You're
but
also
exactly
checking your schedule when the next coaching call is going to be, and then of course you're also trying to figure out, okay, how many students do I have now? And you're doing all of those things instead of actually focusing on whatever it is that you want to focus on. And when they say whatever it is that you want to focus on, as a coach, sometimes you want to focus on creating the modules, right? And sometimes you want to really just focus on how to deliver, like deliver the coaching advice or the insights that you want to impart to your students. And all of these tasks, like managing your calendar, managing your email, it does take away from what you want to focus on. And
are they important parts of your business? Are they important parts of your business? Yes, but they're not the parts of your business that only you can do. And that's the important thing to understand. Yes, you need to manage your emails in order to keep touch with your students or sign ups.
Yes.
But the key thing is who your brand is supposed to be. If you're a guru, that's yourself, right? Let's talk about other aspects of business. If you're a pest exterminator, only you can exterminate the pests, at least in the beginning while you're your own person, right? So would you rather spend an extra 10 hours a week managing emails, managing socials, rather than being out there doing what you do best? If you're a stripper,
doing the extermination and being paid for that hour instead of it's 10 hours away from the actual thing that's getting you paid.
Exactly.
I think is the point there.
Exactly. And if you're charging if you're charging $100 an hour for a job, right? Wouldn't you rather just say it's managing emails? I can afford to pay $15 an hour to earn the extra 85. Ding.
True. Yeah. Ding. So that's one, right? Like all of these things that are taking you out of tasks that actually get you paid or is what you want to focus on. I think the other thing that we've been hearing from startup founders that we've talked to when in the years that we've been doing this is they're actually they are the CEO, meaning they're the chief everything officer. So they try to do it all. They just really try to do it all, and sometimes it does lead to burnout. Quite understandably, because you're now where we are right now. I do know that all the parts of business, they're it's not just surface level.
No.
It's finance is not just, money in, money out. It's
Yeah.
so much more, right? And being chief everything officer, it's just gonna it's gonna affect your health. It's gonna, like, not just your physical health but mental health. You know what? I remember one of our friends, in one of
Yes.
the presentations she's done. She was the chief everything officer back then, and she was
Okay, where did you pick up that
fixing
term, honestly?
fixing tables. Yeah, she was fixing the tables. She was the CEO, like in the actual CEO, but she was the one fixing the tables, and it led her to having a heart attack.
Oh yeah.
And that's when
That's
she changed everything after the heart attack. And of course, these are the struggles that you take on when you're doing a startup, because of course it's still a startup, right? Like, you want to get it off the ground.
oftentimes when you're a startup, you're at $0, or any dollars that you
Yeah.
can afford has to go back into the business. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's really the I can probably do it myself. And you're not wrong. You can probably do it
Yeah.
yourself, yes. And maybe even better than most people can, especially if you're the kind of person who's really just, you just happen to be that person who happens to be really good at everything, or if you put a little bit of effort into it, you can probably still do it better. That's fine. But the question is whether you should be doing first for your own sake, right? In the beginning, sure, you have all of the gumption and the gusto, but you have to realize
Mm.
very, very quickly at some point, you know how you like eating something to the point where, oh, I could eat
Mm.
this every day. And as a person with
Okay.
ADHD, I could literally say there have been times when you can, yes, I can eat this all day, every day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, Monday, Tuesday to Sunday. But you will reach a point where you cannot, when you look at the same food and you're like, I can't, don't let that happen to how you see your business, right? The burnout is real, absolutely real. And you'll never know when you actually hit burnout when it's there.
It's usually like in hindsight, okay, I was
Mm,
already burned out.
mm,
But anyway, so these are the things that we as from Virtua Solutions Outsourcing are helping our clients with. So Virtual Solutions, so we're all about outsourcing, and this is one of the things that you can do as a startup founder to kind of scale your startup, scale your business, so that you can focus on your core tasks. So Francis, first off, before anything else, right? What is outsourcing?
well, in order to define outsourcing, you have to understand what sourcing is. Kidding. No. Outsourcing comes from the Latin word out, meaning outro. I'm kidding too. But when you say outsourcing, this is the practice of hiring. When you hire external professionals or teams to handle businesses that you
Mm,
might otherwise have to keep in-house. So at least for me, that's the
yeah.
basic definition. If this is your business, all of the core functions are normally in-house. But if you,
Mm-hmm.
as a business, do not have the expertise or the capacity to handle something, you now say, I need to talk to somebody like like a partner to outsource
Mm-hmm.
my business arm, or that one of your business. For a startup, it's about bringing in experts where you need them and freeing up your time to focus or growing your business. Or oftentimes in reality, like we were discussing earlier, if you're a startup,
Mm-hmm.
you're a core of 10 people who developed a product, and now you have a product and now it's selling, right? You can probably
Yeah.
take on the selling portion because you know how to sell it, maybe in
Yeah.
your own way. But I don't know how to do legal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know how to do customer service the way customer service people would do it. I'm a developer. I don't have
Yeah.
time
And
to.
we do have like experience with,
Yes.
oh, I'm not dissing, but not everyone is for customer service. Like the
Mm,
demeanor, right? Like the
yeah.
friendliness that has to be there, right? Like, so that's the reason why you would outsource
Yes.
to an agency, or you would get a freelancer, so that you can focus on the development and they can do the customer support. I
Yes.
think the
You can.
other yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say exactly. Not anybody is built for for customer service in the same way that not
Mm.
everybody is built for sales. I am happy
Yes.
to I am happy to do customer service all day every day, but don't let me, you know, don't look at me and say, "Can you sell this pen to an Eskimo?" I will throw that pen at you and then feed you
Isn't
to
that
an
like a
Eskimo.
isn't the example supposed to be sell ice to an Eskimo and a pen to
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
and a pen
sell
to
this. See, that's how traumatized I am.
across.
All of the examples just
No, no, but yeah, and it comes with like really knowing, well, one, as we mentioned before, what you want to focus on, and two, what
yes,
you're really good at, right? So
yes,
for in the example that we were saying earlier regarding pest control and exterminating, right? You don't want to be managing the emails and managing your calendar, so you can actually outsource admin or VA
admin
tasks
task
or
exactly.
virtual assistant. Let me just so everyone knows. So VA is a virtual assistant. So you can actually outsource that task to a VA or someone who does admin support. So we've tackled like customer support. You can outsource sales and marketing, and then you can also outsource admin, right?
You
The other
can
things
add.
actually, I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, let's do a rundown of commonly outsourced tasks.
Yeah,
So we were already talking admin, virtual assistants,
yeah,
which for me are some of the most common, and act
yeah.
and in reality, it's sort of like a huge umbrella of what people
Oh,
consider as
huge umbrella.
admin. Yeah, it's a huge
Yeah.
it's really a huge umbrella of how that
Mm.
looks, right? But let's talk about other tasks.
For under marketing and sales, right? So it's not just selling
Yes.
pen to an Eskimo, no. I understand Eskimo, but like for sales, perhaps let's talk about sales. You want to be the one closing because you know all of the features, right? Like
Yes.
you don't want to be the person who's going to be researching for phone numbers or emails for the people that you want to touch base and close a sale with. So
Mm-hmm.
lead generation can be outsourced. In the marketing side of things, I think a common outsourced task is social media management
Yeah.
and content. I think those two are most of the time outsourced.
Yes. I mean, marketing, sales, there's social media, during the
Mm-hmm.
advent of like everything is marketing on Facebook and TikTok. I think that's the reason why you have a lot of like really, really successful social media agencies. Is
Mm-hmm.
because, we know how social media works. I actually love just to give this example of when the Gen Z lingo started popping up, and then the boomers
Mm-hmm.
were all trying to, how do we do marketing the Gen Z way? And then you have all of these
Yeah,
boomer
I don't
real estate people saying like, look at
no
this,
cap.
no
Yeah,
cap.
yeah, yeah. It's
I, d-
I don't
I get
like I don't understand a word.
so much riz.
But then again, I'm not. Yeah, but then again, I'm not Gen Z, so it's
I am
understandable
not
that I
Gen.
don't
We are not
understand.
Gen Z.
Although you would understand the virality of it, because it is a little bit funny. Even though in real estate, it's usually like millennials, boomers that are buying the houses and whatnot, right? But
Yeah, but
anyway, let's go back.
that's the
Mm,
genius of that kind of social media marketing, and that
yeah,
your job is to sell houses, not find out the best way to sell houses,
to
right?
create
That's
the
the job
real,
of
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the job of the and that's really
The
how
marketing.
big the content creation scope has begun, the genius of it. So don't focus on that. Focus on getting the right partner for it. So I mean, what
Yeah.
else? I mean, there's
For
IT and
IT
development.
development,
Yeah.
web design, yeah, web design. I think also cybersecurity, even the development of the actual software can be outsourced. What about finance, Francis?
Finance. I mean, everything. I mean, especially as soon as you start getting a few people on roll and then you're doing payroll. Trust me, when you've been doing payroll, the wrong way, you'll never want to do it and you discover how to do it the right way,
How
you'll
to
never
like
want
the
to do
right
it the
way.
other. Yeah, you never want to go back to it
But
again.
I think it's because you and I know that I know like after doing several months of bookkeeping that I wasn't cut out for it. It's not that
Mm.
I can't do it. It's just it's not for
Oh
me.
wait, you did bookkeeping,
I
I did payroll.
I did. You did
You
pay.
did.
So right, like you kind of know that it's not. You don't find the enjoyment out of
Yeah,
it as opposed to something else, right?
I
So
was
yeah.
waiting
So the
to
all.
I was waiting to
Go
hit.
ahead.
I was waiting to meet Mariconda in person and say, "Does this spark you joy?" No, no, like no. And I think, ano, to speak of this. So even though we didn't outsource, one of the
Mm,
things that we quickly found out in our business is that we needed help with finance and accounting,
yeah.
and
Yes.
that's sort of like discovering um, again without because so we can't use our company in terms of what companies to outsource, but it's
Mm,
discovering which things that we needed help with. I
yeah.
think very early on it was definitely um,
Finance.
finance,
Mm-hmm.
and then was it operations or HR?
I think marketing was next.
Oh yeah,
It was marketing first.
yeah, because we
Yeah.
needed help website putting out ads, and then
Yes.
we went HR. Because oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So we didn't do HR because I think in the beginning it was easier to manage like just a few people and then us. And then by the time that we
Yes.
reached a certain number, we said we need help with HR and recruitment. Yep. So speaking of HR and recruitment, um, HR and recruitment is talent sourcing,
Yeah.
recruitment. Definitely when it starts becoming, I need what's the word? I need 10 people hired, which means you're
Yesterday.
interviewing yesterday, which means I
Yesterday. Or you just heard recently.
yeah. And you can only do so much posting on Facebook groups.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we heard yesterday very very recently. When did
Yeah.
you need this? Yesterday. Last year.
Yeah. And I think in the outsourcing realm, there's a lot of misconceptions about it, right? So we'll
Yes.
tackle just a few of them. One myth that I've heard also recently is that we're small. Why would we outsource? Like it's just for big companies. And I think that's coming from the usual definition of outsourcing, which is outsourcing a certain process. And when people think about the process, it has to be all streamlined already, all written
No.
out. And so sometimes people would think that you can only outsource if you have it all figured out yourself. So no, actually, most of our clients are startups, and I think they're the ones who need our help the most. Francis,
Yes.
what have you heard as a myth in outsourcing?
No, I just wanted to write that. I mean, one of the biggest myths apart from saying we're only a small company, we're
Mm-hmm.
thinking maybe one or two. That's the reality, right? Like maybe they want to try one. The other thing is it's the perennial standoff of how much is it gonna cost. Most companies
Yeah.
seem to think that the that the outsourcing aspect is going to be expensive. Well, on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just add to this myth that sometimes they do find it expensive, but on the other hand, sometimes they think it's dirt cheap. If if I mean, there
Yeah.
are
No, that's
extreme
true.
there are
That's true.
extremes in both the sides. Like how much is it going to cost? Like setup or that it's going to require a minimum of 10 people. So start. It's still a big company myth that we can't afford more than 3 people, and they think that maybe not a lot of companies will make battle them. So apart from the expense, on the other hand, there are a lot of companies that have made outsourcing um to to agencies.
Mm-hmm.
uh, what's the word? There are companies like Fiverr, which of course you try to outsource one-off jobs, and that's fine. um but in reality, building long-term quality relationships
Yeah.
with an entire arm. We're not just talking like, you know, uh, getting one or two people. Doesn't mean that you're ready to pay like, so how much did it cost? $1 a month? No, no. So it's neither too expensive or too cheap. That's just
Yeah.
the point. But if you go to the part where I need the right partner that says it's cost effective, should be the right
Hmm.
word for me in the long term, rather than hiring something with the commitment, because that's the problem with expense. And then on the other hand, it's also about um the long term commitment of it.
Hmm.
So those are the things that you want to look like. Scalability allows you to say, can I try it for a few months and not be tied
Yeah.
down for a long-term contract, or maybe hired for a year and not commit to a long-term contract, rather than from your home doing it in-house, where you immediately have to commit to um to other company required mandatory benefits, which goes beyond the
Yes.
dollar per hour cost there. And then one more. And maybe we have one more myth, Penny.
I think one more myth that we've heard as well is that companies will lose control if they start to outsource. It's probably coming from, and I'm not saying like this is all encompassing or this is the only reason why people feel like you lose control if you outsource. It's probably also coming from, your some companies' interaction with outsource agencies, right? Or for example, they call their utility where it's either telephone, power, whatever it is, and the support arm is outsourced. It can also come from that experience, talking to an outsource and having kind of a disconnect with getting answers and
Yep.
how they're answered. Like the brand voice is so different.
Yeah.
It's all verbatim and things like that. It could also come from that. But really, if you think about it, outsourcing and partnering with an agency or a freelancer, whichever you want to go with, it's not just a set it up and forget it. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be a long-term partnership. So if something isn't working for you, you should bring it up to your partner agency, or you should bring it up to your freelancer, so that you and them, you're all aligned. So it's not really losing control. It's more of making sure that you are on the same page. And I think, Francis, previously, the point that you were making previously was actually, you're also making the point of what the benefits are in
Yes.
outsourcing. I think you were talking about scalability, because instead of, and we'll start diving into the benefits of doing outsourcing, right? So instead of having to commit to all the government mandated benefits wherever you are, because they're now your in-house employees. With outsourcing, you don't actually have to think about that. It's more of a partnering with an agency or partnering with the freelancers, and they would take care of the government or the employee,
Yes.
excuse me, yeah, benefits on their side of the world or on their side of the state, depending on where you're outsourcing. What else are so cost efficiency as well? So that also comes with cost efficiency, because now if they were an employee, you might have to give them a device. It may also even doing the hiring costs something, right? So
Hmm.
if you were to hire everyone in house, you would have to have your HR. You have to do
You'll
your
have to
job
engage
post,
a
and
lot
then
of people. You'll have to engage a lot of
yeah,
departments simultaneously. So it's not
exactly.
about, I mean, it would be great if you have great networks and say, can you recommend somebody to me? But if you're
Mm,
at a point in your business where you have to engage HR, and you know that becomes that there is additional cost. Like I said, if you're
mm-hmm,
engaging different departments, it's your overhead that's moving for you. So sometimes these costs can add up, not to mention the time involved, and then not to
mm-hmm,
mention another aspect, which is scalability.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes you want to be able to say, uh I got a big opportunity, like if you're uh if for example, in need of writers, for example, usually I find
Mm-hmm.
writers are the ones that have immediate needs for scalability, right? Like, um, I suddenly need to write a whole book, for example, and therefore I need to engage a team of 10 writers. You don't
Okay.
need to employ 10 writers all the time, but it where do you immediately get people who can say, like, I need people to churn out words? I need
True, not words. Yeah, but yeah, I get what you mean. I think
yes.
in our experience, what our clients would ask for is okay. Christmas season, we're going to get more customer inquiries. Like it's giving season, right? Like
Yeah.
more
Peak
inquiries about
season
the products, and
inquiries.
yeah, so peak season, right? And sometimes that volume only happens during those months, so you
Yep.
don't want to be hiring more people to service your customers and then not know what to do with them after the peak season ends.
Exactly.
So doing outsourcing that also affords you like scalability that way, have being able to flex some resources in when you need it.
Exactly. It's it's and that's the beauty of that kind of uh ease as well.
Mm.
Uh Again, for example, if you're even let's talk about, even for outsourcing agencies, you suddenly land a client that says, I need 100 people, and that's
Mm-hmm.
beyond the capacity of your HR and recruitment team to handle. Then, for the efforts of scalability, are you able to partner with a hiring firm which provides
Mm-hmm.
hiring solutions? That's exactly how you need that kind of scalability without saying, okay, let's hire HR people first. Diba? Those are things that you should have done yesterday for that job. But that's the
Yeah.
reason, that's the reason why businesses like ours exist. It's supposed to help with immediate expansion, or even
Mm-hmm.
if, for example, God forbid, when you say, during COVID times, it wasn't that hard for a lot of companies to let go of outsourced resources, because that's the nature of the business. You can protect
Mm-hmm.
your interest by saying, okay, we need to cut off this relationship in, at least 30 days from now, without suffering long-term consequences. There's a bad side to it or at some point, but that's the reason why it exists. So anyway, the other thing I would
I,
think of, um, the other thing I would think of, immediate access to expertise. You don't have to
yeah.
train somebody from the beginning.
So, in terms of access and expertise, we're not just saying here. I think what we're actually saying here is that if you're partnering with an agency, right, with an outsourcing agency, and they've done customer support before, they already know what KPIs to look at. They already know how to measure them. They probably already know
They probably have the
what
whole
customers love
spiel
or hate.
already.
Yeah, the whole
They
spiel
have the whole
already. What
template.
works,
They're
what
just
doesn't.
waiting for the company name.
Yeah, and even like the ecosystem of customer support. So what do I mean by that? If you have limited budget and but you want to tackle as many customers at one time, your outsourcing your partner agency can probably tell you what
Let's
to
do
focus
chat.
on. Should you focus on email? Let's do chat. Should we do phone? And it's probably going to be chat at that point because you can service multiple customers at the same time and it's more real time. But even then, even like what tools to use, what's the best one, and how to measure all of these, if you are partnering with an outsourcing agency like that, they would be able to guide you, right?
Yes.
You're taking out the guesswork because you're already working with an agency that already does these things, or already knows the entire bit of it.
Yeah, they've gone through what you're about to go through. So
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
even, that's probably a great benefit in my case, to talk to somebody. Like, I've never encountered even a risk, but they would say, oh, but we've been through that and back
Yeah.
several times already, and we can tell you this is what's gonna. You get free advice, for crying out loud. I wouldn't say free advice. You're just getting what your money's worth, to to
And I
be to
think
be honest.
yes, your money's worth. I think one. one effect of that is now you can execute faster, because instead of thinking of, okay, so how do we set this up, right? Like how, which tool should we use, which what system or what process should we have in here, and instead of thinking all of those things, if you partner with an agency or someone who specializes on that side, like whether it's content creation or customer support, all you have to do is, of course, you would have to teach them your product, your service, those crucial things, so that you guys can partner together. But everything else, they already know what to do. So it's faster execution. Now it's more thinking about the strategy and the alignment between the agency and you as a startup.
No, totally. What else? I feel like there's just so many things to discuss when it comes to why you should
Benefits, yeah.
why you should.
Yeah.
We're talking global talent pool.
Yeah.
Uh
You're not now, you don't have to do a job post and like just targeting people around your area because they all have to go in the office. I think the pandemic really proved that you can do hybrid,
you
or you can
can
do
do
remote work.
hybrid. Talent is
Mm,
really global. Thank you, pandemic.
yes. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far, but
No,
yeah,
but
you're
the
not.
reality is the pandemic shook up the world. It
Yeah, it did.
whereas before, I mean, outsourcing wasn't a huge secret. Outsourcing wasn't a huge
No, it wasn't.
secret. Several of, I mean, I think every Fortune 500 company has an outsourced arm, but the pandemic shook it up in such a way that you're an in-house resource, right? And all of a sudden you realize that my company doesn't need me in the office. I can move away from this city, go back
Yeah.
home to either my province, or move back to a place where the costs are one third of my original living cost. So now I'm taking in
Mm-hmm.
much more money and I have so much more space, and my talent is appreciated. Like I didn't have to move into the city, right? So the city got
Yeah.
a bit of breathing room, and then a lot of companies realized that, hey, look, the talent that I hired, and this is probably one of the other things now, the talent that I hired that cost this much because he lives in the city, that I needed him to be in the city because we needed him to come to the office. I can now hire the same talent because this person that I'm hiring now lives a forever and away now, and I'm still paying that same amount of talent. I can pay for the same talent for somebody whose cost of living is a lot less. So people are
Yes.
learning their own lessons. People are learning their own lessons from that. But the point is, after all that, is that talent is global.
Yes.
um, that talent is global. Like you didn't have to be somewhere anywhere. The only other thing that's stopping people is for companies who need to have entities in certain countries in order to
Oh
operate.
yeah, some policies. Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, there are other, again, that's why outsourcing, or being employer on record. So, what does this give you at the very least? The last example I would give, if you are a startup and you are the developer, if you are the designer, if
Mm-hmm.
you are the person who runs the brand, um,
Mm-hmm.
you need time to innovate and bring your business to the next level, right? You need to, in order to
Yes.
stay top of yourself in your industry, whether you're and let's talk about the width and breadth of businesses that can take advantage of outsourcing. If you are a baker, right? Which means you have to continually bake and create and make
Mm-hmm.
goods, right? And that means you have to focus on the baking and the techniques and making prettier cakes, right? Which means you
Mm-hmm.
now have no time, zero time, that in as important as social media is and content creation is and
Mm-hmm.
marketing is, you'd rather get the people who knows how to do their stuff, and you focus on the one thing that you cannot outsource, which is your talent, right?
Yes.
Right? if
Yes, your
you're
unique advantage, as
yes,
I think, as the term is
especially
coined,
if you're
and
if
what you know you
especially
can
if you're
bring.
the yeah, especially if you're the brand, right? Like if you're a
Exactly.
bodybuilder, you can't get somebody to put on a mask and dip and pretend to be, pretend to have
You can't
your
get someone to carry the weights for you.
yeah.
And
I
you
want to do the email
you're just
assistant. You do the
But yeah, I mean, that's true. So so in terms of like competitive advantage, right? Like so for example, some of the startups that we've worked with, I think they were once the developers, but then again, yes, you're the developer, right? But you are also the CEO. So there's a lot of other things that you need to focus on, whether it's partnering with other, partnering with other companies to grow your company, or sourcing talents, or sourcing resources for your software development. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Slack.
Mhm.
I think Slack outsourced their software development.
Yes,
Was
yes,
it?
yes. Slack initially, that was an example we wanted to use. Slack did in fact
Mhm.
outsource the development arm, which means
And
they,
their
yeah,
UI. Yeah.
and their UI,
Yes.
and
Even
now it's one of the
WhatsApp,
most
I think.
beloved UI everywhere.
Actually, yes. I think even WhatsApp outsourced their software development to Eastern European developers. So even if you started like a developer, and you started that idea, and you started the actual product, but then you have to move on to other things to be able to bring your business up to the next level as the
True,
CEO,
agree.
you can still delegate the software development. Sorry, excuse me. You can still delegate the software development, but if you still want to be involved in it, you can still head it, right? It's just that
You
you're
realize
not
how
as
time
involved day in day out.
consuming, yeah, how
Yeah.
time consuming development is. I don't think that it
Mm-hmm.
will leave you a lot of time. I mean, you can probably, from a technology offer chief technology perspective, give
Mm-hmm.
marching orders, but have you seen a developer actually work? No, they you put, like they're like clay pots. You put them inside a brick wall, and leave them,
Mm-hmm.
and they come out with enlightenment. They come out as Buddha. Like, here's the product. Develop. No, yeah, if you want to see them work, any sort of interruption is not good for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but but I just wanted to add something there, because I've been thinking about
Mm-hmm.
your chief everything officer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's the COO? You probably know that one too.
Child of owner.
Yeah.
I love these acronyms.
Yeah, that's so funny. So, yeah, but I'm the CEO of our company. Like, oh wow, chief operating. No, no, child of owner. I'll move. Sorry, you were gonna say.
No, no, no. I think this part here. So when we did say that you started your company as the tech person, or as the developer, right? And then you move on to different things, because if you're going to be the CEO, then you should move on to different things, and hire or outsource the rest, right? So
Mhm.
how do you figure out when and what to outsource? And I think it all boils down to knowing what you want to do and what your core competency is. And we throw this word, like we throw the term around, core competency. Francis, for you, what do you think is a core competency? Because it's been used everywhere, to be completely honest. How do you
Uh,
figure out what your core competency is? And it's a little philosophical, but
yeah, I think at some point, we've been discussing it earlier already. Are we talking about it
mm,
as a person or as an entity? Or as a
core
brand?
competency.
Yeah.
No, for startup founders. How would you know, if you were a startup founder? How would you know what your core competency is? Or even, I mean, that's what I'm thinking about, because sometimes
No,
most startups are just one person, and then
no.
right. But
So
some
let's say
startups are a little bit
a
yeah.
lot of startups are actually, if I understand it, like, so when we're talking startup, like service
Mm,
software stuff, it's usually like a small core of people. There's still somebody
Mm.
who developed the idea, and somebody who developed the actual product, right? I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
core competency for a solopreneur is very different. Like, I invented a unique pair of socks, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's either you knitted them yourself, or you took them to a dressmaker and said, I want a pair of socks to look like this, because it's compression, it's a nice color, it's very unique, it dries really quickly, right? So as an inventor,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been your, I think that's what I feel like you're testing me on something. I'm not sure,
No,
but
no,
that's
no,
it.
no.
Yeah,
I'm
but
trying
you're
to define it for everyone. Yeah.
yeah, but see, and then for me, for if you were a team of startups and you're developing that, then as a different, as a team of people, you each have your specialty that you're bringing to the table.
Yes.
One was actually developing the product. One was brainstorming on the
Mm-hmm.
product, and maybe one is the
Trying to figure out how to go to market, or
how
at least the
yes
marketing side of
what
it. Yeah.
yes how
Yeah.
to pitch for it. So when I say when that would have been my idea of what core competence is. It's very different for different types of people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how did you?
I think for me, and I think I realized this when we started hiring, when we hired Timmy, our executive assistant. So we do have an executive assistant. I think I core competency for me is kind of an overlap of what I want to do and what I'm good at. I
Yes.
think that for me, like for example, for a company, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep talking to customers so that you know how to bring your minimum viable product to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Or do you want to keep on doing the development and have someone else talk to customers and get the feedback, right?
Right.
What exactly is it that you want to do, and what are you good at? Um, and the
Because
reason why I
there
say
are
that is some people.
things.
Mhm.
Are you saying
Yeah.
because there's some things that some people are good at, but not
Yeah.
necessarily things that they want to do?
That too. That
Yeah, I
happens,
mean,
right? It
I've
happens.
met people like that. I've met people who were really really good at being doctors, but really wanted to become makeup artists, and that's a very very real example. I've met people who were previously doctors who are now makeup artists. They just happen to be good at. Well, I think that has more cultural backgrounds in terms of what their parents wanted them to do, but you prove that they were able
Mhm.
to survive medicine.
But that's
Actually, I
not
think that's the whole of
what they
I think that's
wanted.
the whole of
Mm.
I think that's the whole of the Filipino race. If I remember Joko, I remember that Jokoy bit saying like
Mm.
I'm a nurse but my passion is dancing.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that bit. But
If
but, but the
there's a
other
great
thing,
overlap. I think that's that great
yes.
overlap of in a very rare instance of being able to do what you love and be good at doing what you love.
Mm-hmm.
But I think your question about when it's time to outsource. I'll talk on the aspect of a person who is a solo business. We have discussed it
Yeah.
earlier. When you find yourself unable to move forward with your business because you are literally bogged down with your non-core tasks. So
Yeah.
again, I go back to really prime examples. If you're a real estate agent and you find yourself doing showings, which is important because that is why you need to close. That's what you need to do in order to
Yes.
close real estate deals. You need if you find yourself unable to schedule more time to do more showings because of the other admin task that is admittedly also crucial but is not a core task for you, that means it's time to bring in an assistant. Let's just talk about that example.
Yeah.
It's an assistant, or even a scheduler, a lead generation, even somebody who can, as soon as you're done showing tasks, you can give all of the paperwork, and then
Yes. The
somebody
paperwork,
puts
the transaction
together,
coordinator. Yeah.
yeah, puts together the
Or
transaction
even
and
like
the
the
offer.
marketing. Yes, the offer, yeah, doing the offer, all of the compliance documents and things like that. I think even also doing the marketing side of things, because
Yes.
as a realtor, you do have like if you're listing, um, listing realtor, you do have to market the properties that you have or the listings that you have, right? So you do have to do social media, you do have to do ads if you want to, or some reels, whatever it is, right? And sometimes doing that and then doing the showing and then doing everything else, it's really going to slow you down. So if you can outsource this task with someone who already knows how to make a great post, how to make a great caption that engages the reader in and targets who you want to target, then go ahead and outsource that side.
Or can copy your template.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
yeah,
think the
or
other thing.
yeah,
Go ahead.
the yes, the on the flip side, you may have been good at everything and it was
Mm-hmm.
just eating up a lot of your time. The other thing, not nothing to be ashamed of, is that when you now have an area of your business that you're struggling with,
Mm-hmm.
which means it's
Yeah.
not your expertise. And it's okay not to have an expertise. Nobody said that you have to be Sally great at everything. Uh,
Yes.
right? You may have been good
Just
at one thing and that's enough, right?
yeah. Yeah. And I think we kind of went through this as well, where it's gonna take more time for you to learn that side of the business rather than having to just outsource that side. Like for example, your website development, right?
Mm.
It'll take time for you to really understand how to create a website,
Yes.
what copy is effective for a website, what colors should be, like it's gonna take you a lot of time to figure that out and to learn it. And then what? And then after, if it's not part of your core business, then go ahead and start outsourcing and try to find a freelancer, an agency who would do your website for you. So if you lack that certain expertise in doing something, the technical know-how of doing something, right? Start outsourcing those.
Yeah. Or maybe even let's sorry. Um, no, I was gonna say maybe you lack expertise in every crucial aspects of a business. You just happen to have money.
Oh, but
That's
yeah,
fine too. Exactly.
that does happen.
That's that. I was gonna say, like, what if you weren't talented in everything, but I was I mean look at Tesla. um,
I'm just gonna say,
just
but yeah, but no,
yeah.
why not?
Some people. I mean, there are a lot of what was that business tips and advices. I
Mm-hmm.
usually take those with a grain of sand. But even if they say,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to, as sources of retirement income, buy a
Mm-hmm.
ready-made business, which
Oh
you
yeah, right.
can.
Because yeah, it is a popular thing right now. Buying
Yes,
small businesses from retiring. Anyway, go ahead.
yes. So yes, um, the yeah, let's move away from that. Another sign that says it's time for you to outsource is when you say you are ready to scale, but you find yourself
Mm-hmm.
in an area or local, or it's prohibitive for you to hire in house, which
Mm-hmm.
you know when you're when you're doing things admittedly maybe with a little bit of hocus pocus and not exactly everything above board, you might find out that when things are finally you might find out that when things are finally above board, that it's actually prohibitive for you to scale. uh because it's not just paying somebody dollar per hour. I'm so
Yeah.
honestly, I'm so surprised how a lot of things in the US operate.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was recently reading about the tip economy or the gig economy,
Mm-hmm.
where people say, uh you know uh, uh, those how people are so uh enraged by people who do not tip, and I'm like, I've never tipped.
Okay.
Like, maybe if I go to the States, I maybe will not have tip, but the truth is minimum wage in some states are actually that low to the point where you have to survive on the actual tips, right? Some states, uh, going away from, you just using that example, are in places where minimum wage allows them to scale in-house,
Mm.
but maybe not able to find the right talent. So it's not just about the cost, but it's prohibitive for you to scale in-house because in-house talent in your area, mm, generally not available, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so might
That
as
makes
well
sense.
look to other areas. So that I did make sense, right? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that's
It
the
did
that's the
make
point.
sense. About 10%. No. But anyways, we did talk about when and what to outsource, like some trigger points of when to outsource. And
Yes.
like for one is, you're bogged down with non-core tasks and you need to focus on your core competency. You lack expertise in a certain area and it'll take time, effort, and even sometimes money to learn a certain thing. So outsource those. And then also if you're ready to scale but aren't ready to scale, sorry, to hire in-house, you can also start outsourcing. But there is, I think, a better, or at least, I wouldn't say the right way to outsource. I think
Are you giving a rule of
there
thumb?
are effective ways. Yeah, rule of thumb, yes. In terms of doing outsourcing, or starting to outsource your first few people. And I think the very first thing is knowing what tasks do you want to outsource? What exactly is it that you want to outsource? Do you want to outsource your customer support arm? Do you want to outsource your sales or your lead generation? I think in our experience in the past few years, there was a time where we were in a discovery call where we were talking to the client and they just said personal tasks. That's what they want to outsource, but cannot pin down what personal
What
tasks
the tasks
they want
were?
to give the
Yeah.
VA. Yeah, what the tasks were. And that's going to be a recipe for disaster, because then you wouldn't, by the time that you do have your VA with you and you don't exactly know what you want them to do, you will
Mm.
find yourself at a loss, like day in and day out, like thinking, okay, I have a VA, so what now? So the very first step is really define what it is that you need and what do you think, like, you need the VA to do or your customer support team to do. Yeah.
Yeah. When I think that is harder for it's harder for people who is currently chief everything,
Yeah.
because it's separating things that I used to do myself and things that I
Mm-hmm.
wish somebody else would do for me, but now you also add to the trouble, have trouble delegating or letting go because you think you're the
Oh,
first
yeah.
person to.
It's a big
um
thing.
yeah,
Being able
some
to
people
let go
do,
and
some
delegate.
people just can't allow other people to do things. No, they have to look over everything
Mm-hmm.
and sign off on everything, which isn't a bad thing, but
Mm-hmm.
that just means you haven't developed a process for yourself to be able to actually delegate and then just sign off on the most
Yes.
important task. But that's, you know
I
again.
think one solution for that is to, and I know we might be jumping here, but to actually document what you want this person to do if you already have it, right? Like, so especially for a chief everything officer, if you're the one, and I've had the discovery call like this where the CEO was the one doing the order fulfillment,
Mhm.
like taking in the orders, actually
Actually
communicating to
fulfilling
the
the orders,
warehouse.
yeah.
Yeah, like, right, like, if you already have a process in place and you know that that's not what you need to focus on, then
Or the
start
best use of your
documenting it, right?
time, yeah.
Best use of your time, start documenting it. And you don't have to write it in such a way in business language. No, all you have to do really, if actually the most basic, if you can take a video of what you're doing, like even on an online video,
Take a
that's the
loom.
best way. And have, yeah,
Take a five
Loom,
minute loom.
or yeah, I think I use Cloud App for recordings, but Loom
Yeah, I mean,
is,
yeah.
that's a tool. No, but yeah, but if you can record it, like if you're not a good writer, but you do know how to do it, and you can just record it in a video and have your VA or whoever you're working with as an when you outsource, right? look at that video and see step by step how you do it, and then they would write it for you, and then you would just sign off on that documentation. And then even just for the first few times that they do it, you just look at the output. If that's the desired output that you have, then that's the solution for it. That disconnect between, can I delegate this or not?
Yeah.
Try to document the process first.
And the truth is, a lot of great the truth in this world is like a lot of great documents or great processes never actually got documented because people suck at writing. Um, no, it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about like a lot of companies, every company that you ever worked with, like, with usually their problem is we weren't that great in keeping track of our documentation, or should have done a better job with our documentation. But believe me when I say, if you need to start delegating, if you can't delegate, don't think that you can delegate with just giving instructions. Has to be detailed. It has to be, if you want to say this is how I did it, take a video, because that's exactly what you did, and that's exactly what they can follow. And what you think you're giving out as instructions in your head doesn't always translate the same way when you're
Yeah.
showing somebody exactly
Yes, sir.
how to do it. So
I
yes.
would I think showing something how to do a specific task, I think for me is okay, as long as while you're doing, like, you're showing them how to do it, someone is taking down notes on how it's done and then documenting it. Because
Mm,
I understand you don't have time to sit down, right, and the person is already here. Then show them through the process, have them document it for you.
mm-hmm.
And then again, look at the first few times that they do it. Look at if you're satisfied with the output. It is not a set it and forget it, meaning, okay, I already showed you once, you should be able to do it, right? It's not like that. You are still, even if you're outsourcing, and you're outsourcing a certain task that you have done multiple times and you want it done a specific way, and that's a caveat, you want it done a specific way, then you would have to teach them. You really would just have to teach them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about? And I think we've talked about. Sorry. How to outsource the right way. I think the next thing is finding the right person and the right partner.
Who is the right person for the job that you
You wouldn't
want?
know who the right. Yeah. Who would you wouldn't know who the right person is if you haven't defined clearly what it is that you need. So it all starts with that. So finding the right partner depends on what you need. You can
Yes.
work with a freelancer, you can work with an agency or an outsourcing firm, but depends on what. Do you have any tips, Francis, if for example something is um can be outsourced a freelancer as opposed to an
we
agency?
already we already agreed earlier that
Mm.
almost everything that is not of your core competency can be outsourced, right? In fact,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's your core competency, it can still be outsourced. Um, but who the right person is probably the same complexity as finding, a life partner, or
Mm.
a hookup. There has to be that right. Sorry, should we just? There has to be the right chemistry. Yeah, that's why people,
Mm.
what exactly are these avenues? It could be just hiring somebody, a guy that right? That
Mm.
somebody that you can pay, like, like, if for plumbing jobs, you just go, oh, I know this somebody. Or we go to the other thing is referrals. When you say, do you know somebody who knows how to do this, and they say, I know somebody,
Mm.
right? And then when you but it's the right type of person or entity for the right type of job as well. So I'm talking about, sometimes
Yeah.
you can go directly to a freelancer and they say, I can do this, right? And I'm saying freelancer versus an entire agency is different, based on not even just scalability, because you can still go to an agency to hire one person, right? The
Yes, that's
difference
true.
is if when you're talking to a freelancer, you'll have to take on a lot of the tasks that is involved with doing that. Contracts,
Payroll, yeah,
payroll, for
payroll.
example.
And
And
even
it,
like legal compliance with hiring a freelancer. You'd have
mm,
to take that on.
you'll have to, and you'll have to understand that. So maybe if the job that you're doing doesn't have the right, happens to be just, 100 word article, for example, you could probably just go to Fiverr or know somebody who writes and say, can I
Mm,
commission you to do something? Could be as easy as that, right? But if you're saying, I need somebody to take on these tasks, and those tasks involve giving personal details like your email, your bank account, access to
mm,
your
yeah,
systems, you probably want somebody that you can really sign an ironclad contract with, or
contract.
in this case, starting with why agencies are somebody who can watch over that person for you, right? And then now when you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, I am a person and I need to find the right partner. I am this person and I need an entire, all of a sudden I need an entire army of people to do the work for me. You probably need to just go straight to an outsourcing firm and say, this is what I need to do. And they say no more. We know exactly what you want to do. Is it this, and this? Is that what you need? And all you need to do is say yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
One other thing that you need to know when you're outsourcing or how to do it effectively is also using the right tools. And we're not just talking about project management tools. There's a lot of project management tools out there. We're also talking about communication tools, right? What's the best tool for you in terms of, for example, for us, Slack works for us. Most of our clients use Slack, sometimes Teams, Microsoft Teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on what your need is. But the important thing there is you have tools to communicate, you have tools to collaborate because you are working from different countries. So you do need to have that tech stack, as they call it, or the tools in place to be able to collaborate effectively.
So, given that you also have tools, you have now these
Hmm.
people, um, uh, what is the next, for me, the other, let's just say the most important thing, now that you have the people and the tools and the process, you now have to understand how to, you kind of want to say, okay, go forth and be successful, right? But how do they come back and say, yes, I am successful? You now have to be able to say, this is how I will know that you are successful. In short,
Yes.
your measurement of success, right? So,
Yes.
um, what will define that? If you tell a writer to, I need 100-page document, 100-page article, and he comes back and says, here's 100-page article, it could just be a string of words that doesn't measure success, right? If
Yes.
you say just create, make me make me 10 social media posts, then social media marketer can come back to you and say, or content creator can come back to you and say, here's your 10 posts, right? It has
But
to
the
be,
art effective, right? It has to be very specific on what you think success is. So, for example, in customer support, right? Because that's one of our core services, Virtua's core services, customer support or tech support,
answer the
actually.
email.
Yeah. Like it's not just answering the email; it's first response time. How fast? Like what your customers want. They want fast resolution, fast responses. So you would measure for first response time. You would measure for resolution time, right? And you would have to identify what these KPIs or SLAs are going to be. And just as a word of caution, concentrate on a few. If you are trying to streamline and working with an agency, try to focus on certain, like the priorities first, like what you want to prioritize first, whether it's being able to answer emails right away, right? Like focus on that first. Don't focus on all the KPIs at all times because that's gonna lead not just your agency or your freelancer to burn out, but you as well because you're trying to juggle so many things. So in terms of KPIs and SLAs, have them in place, make them specific, and it depends on what role you're outsourcing, right? Make them very specific. Smart, I guess, is
Smart.
you said smart earlier, right? Like,
Yeah,
specific, measurable, attainable. Yeah.
time bound. Uh,
Yeah.
Nothing so far. So I mean, these wisdom tips, tricks,
Mm.
acronyms. So far, nothing has ever topped smart in terms of
Goal
creating and
setting.
measuring goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's the most, people have been saying smart, smart, smart. You know, I mean probably before we started working, but when I came in, when you come in some good 25 years ago, um, before I said, you know, uh, I will create more training modules. That's not smart. You didn't say how many, by what
How many,
time,
when, yeah.
by when. When you say hold more classes, you didn't say how many, when, and to who. So, you know, it
Mm.
it's very interesting that you actually still see them now that you're mentoring your own set of leaders, that how easy it is to forget how to become smart with something. And and as a leader yourself, who's either delegating or setting those goals for other people to
Mm.
accomplish, you're setting yourself up for failure when you come back and say, did you do this? There's so many aspects for them to be able to say yes. Like if you didn't count the fact that it failed, it was successful. I think I've heard
Yeah.
somebody I think I've heard somebody say that, like, did you think you were successful? I mean, other than the fact that we didn't close a sale, you can still consider it a success. So,
Because we talk to someone, right? So really depends how you would phrase it, and sorry, how you would phrase it and everything. So I mean, these are just some of the best practices that you can do when you do start outsourcing. There are a ton of things and a ton of details underneath all of those. And I think with the 7 years that you and I share, well, actually even more than that, because you were working with a call center even before we started Virtua. I was
mhm.
I was the same. Well, we're more of an in-house sales
We were in-house, yeah.
arm, but
But we
yeah,
were working
back
for
then,
and I was working for an outsourcing firm, call center.
yes. Yeah. So those, like, there's a lot of details that we can share in terms of how to outsource the right way, or at least the best practices. And we can always, I mean, if you guys think that you would like to know more on how to outsource the right way and how to partner the right way with an outsourcing agency or even a freelancer, let us know. Please leave a comment down below. We would love to see, and we would love to know if you want to know more.
So we say again, great outsourcing is not all about the delegating part. It's important, yes, but outsourcing is really partnering with the right people who you know will be crucial to the success of your business, right?
Yeah,
So,
partnering with the right people. And when we say partnership, it's not just finding the right freelancer or agency to work with, but also having that right, what do you call this, collaboration with them and alignment with them.
yes.
That's what great outsourcing is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I think we're happy to move on to our other segment. What's your take? And Penny, I have a question for
We
you.
should probably have like a, thing. What's your take? No.
Oh, what's your take? I don't know.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we have talked a lot about knowing when it's time to outsource, or even
Yeah.
talking about, who to partner with. But I go back to, I think, is a big fear from a lot of people who will
Yes.
take the plunge, spend the money, commit to a partnership, which is,
Yeah.
how do I now ensure the quality of work that is rendered?
Okay. So is it my turn first and then your turn
Well, you go first, then
for
it's my
this?
turn.
Okay. Okay. How do I ensure quality work? So I mentioned before, document your processes, right? Like, be clear on what you need, be clear on the tasks that you want to delegate, document the process. If you already have a process in place, then document it, start documenting. that's gonna have alignment. And in terms of, some people would say quality work is also being the same, or having the same brand tone or brand voice. If you want to sound just one way, for example, for customer support, if you want your agents to sound as if they are directly working for you, or are part of, well, they are part of a company even though they're outsourced, but as the same brand voice as your company, then write it down. Write your do's and don'ts, in terms of tone, in terms of what words to use, what words not to use, how to, even the terms that you use in your company when talking to customers. Like, have all of those written down. And then also have check-ins with your outsourcing partner or your freelancer. Have regular check-ins and see and give them regular feedback. I think that's how you ensure quality work. What about you, Francis? I'm trying not to cover everything, but
How do I
what's
ensure? How do I ensure quality of work? Thank you so much for that wonderful question. I don't even know what that was. I don't even know what that was. But for me, you know that show Nailed It.
yes,
Yeah,
that
I think
that show nailed it.
yeah,
Where so
which
nailed it is a. Do
yeah.
you want to explain first what nailed it is?
Well, I'm kind of hoping that this is still around by the time most people still understand what Nailed It is. But it's a show where, you take amateur people and you show
Mm,
them this is what you want to achieve, and they go nailed it, and it's usually like a poor copy of, and for me that's the interesting bit of how
mm,
can how can you say here is the finished product and here are the instructions, and they still end up with the poor qua-
the same.
up
Mm.
yeah
Oh,
a poor copy of what they were supposed to come up with, right? i
mm-hmm.
mean I understand during the show that the intention was to choose people who are particularly bad, not skilled at,
Yeah, bad. Mm-hmm.
not skilled at the skill that they were trying to make them good. But for the most part, you say here is what it's supposed to look like, and
Mm-hmm.
here are the instructions. Most people would
Mm-hmm.
think that should have been enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I've always been thinking now, because it's a it's sort of like a problem that we've been dealing ourselves. So how do you ensure quality of work when you've already, here's the instructions, here's the finished product,
Mm-hmm.
and then people go nailed it. But I realized one of the things that was missing there, to use that as a template. What's missing is walking the person through the exact steps. So
Mm.
training is necessary, documentation
Yes.
is necessary, but I will still go to the point where all of these aspects to ensure that this person is successful, uh because the finished product is a KPI, clearly understanding what the end goal is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The instructions are essential because by saying here are the steps for you to do it, but the actual training shouldn't be skipped. So
True.
even if you're a startup, you're just starting out, you you can, and I'm just giving this as a maybe as an edge case possible result of failure, still get
Mm-hmm.
somebody who is good at what he does, and you
Mm-hmm.
say this is what I need you to do, can you do it? And he goes yes. If you don't go through the steps of success together, the steps that define success together, you'll still
Mm-hmm.
end up you'll still end up with the nailed it product.
True.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear from everyone. So again, the question for what's your take is, how do I ensure quality work when I'm outsourcing? So please drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments or send us your message.
Exactly. And I guess it's time for us to wrap up. And I will say, after all of those great points, I think the important thing to understand is outsourcing isn't, it's never going to be about just giving up and and giving control to another entity or body, right? It's
Mm,
not about saying, okay, have at it. It's being
yeah.
able to partner. There's still a lot of touch points necessary for an outsourcing partnership to work, right? It just
Yes.
allows you to focus more on on what truly matters on your business, but it's not saying, you know, the moment you give up control and say, I don't even know what's happening on that side of the since I outsourced it, still not a recipe for success.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
thoughts, Penny?
Very well said. No, very well said. I think in this entire podcast, you've heard us talk about the struggles that startup founders face. And as Francis mentioned, it's not about giving up control. It's about partnering with the right people or the right agency when you start doing your outsourcing so that you can concentrate on the things that matter for your business. And that's it for today's episode of Business. But the conversation doesn't end here.
Of course, let us. We want to be able to keep the buzz going. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Please send us your thoughts and let us talk business.
And remember, you can find Business on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and YouTube so you can listen anytime and anywhere.
And then until next time, please keep building, keep learning, and keep making your mark. This has been Francis.
And my name is Penny. See you in the next episode. Bye.
Goodbye.